5 minutes to kick off in Belgrade. We'll bring you the whole game live here on Talksport 2 between Red Star and Manchester City. Let's hear from the City boss, Pep Guardiola, ahead of kick-off. And despite his team's recent patchy form, he's not panicking about the situation.
Happy it could be better, could be worse. So it's just a question of in the no good results, take the positive as we think, and the good result, like, for example, last weekend, analyze, we can do better. So managers don't have to lose in the average, in the balance, don't be so excited. In the same time, don't be so depressed.
Pep's good fun sometimes, isn't he, Stuart Pearce, in press conferences, that you can hear just the little hints of sarcasm about how he deals with some of the questioning, because I think he was a bit put out by these accusations that they're in a poor run of form. Yes, they're not top of the Premier League at the minute, but I'd love to have a slump like Manchester City have.
They've set their standards so high, ridiculously high. I'm just looking at their last 15 points in the league, 5 games. They've accrued 6 points, which for them is really poor. Let's be quite honest about it. There's one or two other teams come up for air in the Premier League. Notably Arsenal was stronger, Villa, Liverpool was stronger. So it's a fantastic Premier League, and they've got their work cut out. I felt in the summer, I was asked, did I think Man City would win the Premier League? I said no, because once you've achieved what they achieved last year, winning all 3, there is always a slight drop down, psychologically, physically, I don't know what it is, but there seems to be. And these teams that keep grinding it out, and the Champions League's been their holy grail, hasn't it? Let's be honest with you, and they achieved that last year. So it'll be interesting. If he managed to get his hands on the Premier League and the Champions League this year, for me, he's an Uber manager now. There's no doubt about that. For him to achieve that, if they do it, would be an absolute incredible achievement.
Yeah, it's obviously tough to remotivate a squad of players who've already climbed several mountains for you, and you ask them to do it again. There are players that are obviously critical to what Manchester City do as the players emerge from the tunnel in the stadium in Belgrade. Haaland is an obvious player to talk about, but then there's the whole Rodri factor, the fact that they're 44 games unbeaten when he's played. So I don't know whether City always tend to come up on the rails in the second half of the season, don't they?
I think Rodri's massive. I think more to the point, Dance, is the fact that he's not played Phillips at all. That points to the fact that he sees Rodri as absolutely non-negotiable in his team lineup. 76% I think win ratio with him, 20% without him, I think I've seen earlier, which is absolutely incredible stat. And on top of that, throw in the mix maybe Bernardo Silva, and we haven't talked about the missing piece of the jigsaw that isn't there at the moment, De Bruyne.
Well, he may well be back for the Club World Cup that Manchester City are about to travel to play potentially 2 games. They've been waiting for the opportunity to reintroduce the Belgian. There was half a thought that he might have travelled here tonight to just sit on the bench and just take it all in, but he's not in Belgrade. But I fancy he'll be in Saudi and might get a few minutes here and there, Stuart, just to reintegrate it.
There are certain times as a manager when you get a player back from injury, it's like having a new signing. This fella's so critical to Manchester City. The fact that they're sat 4th in the league, if I'd have said to you, in 16 games' time, Man City won't be in the top 3, you'd have thought I was crazy. But that is the fact. And a lot of that is down to the fact De Bruyne is not available and hasn't been available for a number of games.
Well, I would certainly never accuse Pep Guardiola of taking his eye off the ball in any competition. His intensity normally produces results from the players that he coaches. And there's a few youngsters out there who are going to benefit from Pep Guardiola's in-game management. I'm thinking specifically of Micah Hamilton at the age of 20, who, as you heard earlier from Dave Kellner at William Hill, was once a ball boy, cajoled along by Pep. I'm sure that will have stayed with Micah from his formative years at the Etihad Stadium. Here he is, having scored hatfuls of goals in the academy at the age of 20. He's normally a left-sided player, Stuart. He's playing on the right because the left side is Grealish's domain, isn't it? So I don't know exactly what his job is tonight, or what Pep is expecting of him tonight.
Quite often you could sign all these big money players, and then all of a sudden you've got a Rico Lewis or maybe a Hamilton or a Bob just come from your academy system that give you such a lift. It's incredible. I go back best part of 17, 18 years when I was at Manchester City, and the likes of Micah Richard kept me in a job, you know what I mean, and Nader Manua and Stephen Ireland and Michael Johnson and individuals like that, and Kasper Schmeichel, you know, they keep you in a job when you've got no money to buy players. And City are exactly the same as well. They can go and buy the players, but still, I tell you what, the fans love the likes of Foden. They love him. They've got more of a connection with Foden than they will have any of the other players they've signed in.
And Newcastle are another classic example of a team that have got, you know, northeastern talent in their ranks, and there's nothing that the fans love more. The Dan Burns story is just one example that they've got up there.
That's very true. As I say, there's a real love for local heroes, no doubt about that. Listen, they cornered the market with Shearer, didn't they? The local hero coming home.
Certainly did. Well, Newcastle play later against Milan in that very, very tight group. It's basically Milan, Newcastle and Paris Saint-Germain all looking to join Borussia Dortmund in the round of 16. There's no doubt that Manchester City are already in the round of 16. They have now won 7 group stage groups in a row. Manchester City is a fantastic, consistent level of performance in Europe's premier club competition. And they travel to Belgrade tonight looking to make it 18 out of 18. And we're underway on Talksport 2. Manchester City in their change strip of the very dark blue shirt, shorts and socks with pink numbers on the back. Red Star Belgrade in their traditional red and white striped shirts with red shorts and red socks in this bowl-like stadium here in Belgrade, the Stadion Rajko Mitic, which does provide a hostile atmosphere to many a visiting team, certainly in the league, but they haven't been quite as impregnable in the Champions League. Only 1 point from their 5 games, Belgrade, but they come downfield and look to find their number 9, Shefin Jai, who works the ball back into his own half for Alexander Dragovic, once of Leicester City. They try and work it out to the right-hand side for Nedeljkovic, but for the first time Manchester City win it back, and Stefan Ortega gets a touch of the ball, who was doing the press duties with Pep Guardiola yesterday. Delighted to be given an opportunity, Stuart, in Ederson's absence. Can't be easy being a number 2 to a keeper like Ederson's, you know, always playing when fit and available.
No, it's definitely not. And listen, I'm talking as a coach that's helped set teams up to play against Manchester City, and you're absolutely delighted when Ederson isn't available, not just for his goalkeeping ability, for the fact that you can put the ball in behind your defence and help create goal-scoring opportunities for the team.
And as if by magic, Ortega's first ball out of defence almost saw Manchester City come unstuck, but Oscar Bob comes short inside his own half, wins it well, and Matheus Nunes pushes down the right-hand side and shows great pace for Manchester City. Into the box, right-hand side, what a run from Nunes, pulls it back. Can they get a touch? Grealish with his back to goal at the penalty spot, can't turn and get the shot in, and now Red Star have numbers back. It's worked out to Hamilton on this left-hand side, getting his first touch as a Manchester City player, and Red Star have forced Man City back to the halfway line, but the pace of Matheus Nunes down that right-hand side for Manchester City there was electric. 0-0.
I'll tell you what I liked about Nunes there. Too many times I see players check out when they couldn't go forward. He had the beating of the back line, and he was just out for sheer pace and kept going and going and going. It's the last thing you want as a defender. Once someone gets the other side of you, you're desperate for him to check out. Fantastic run.
0-0 on Talksport 2. Couple of minutes gone at the Rajko Mitic Stadium in Belgrade. Ortega in possession for Manchester City, clips the ball up to Grealish on this near side to us, the left-hand side. He works it back to left-back Sergio Gomez. Kovacic runs into the centre circle, finds Nunes, who had that early run, and he looks early down the right-hand side for Micah Hamilton. First chance to run at Oli Inca in that inside right position. Elects to check inside and find Bob. Now Rico Lewis takes over. He works the ball back to Akanji in the centre circle. Red Star have got everybody behind the ball in these early stages, saying, come on, try and play through us. It's worked out to Grealish on the left-hand side, level with the edge of the area, looks to take on Nedeljkovic, goes to the byline, pulls it back with his left foot, headed away, under danger, and it comes out to Michael Hamilton, right-hand corner of the penalty area, who works it back for Lewis as the pattern of the game, I think, is setting itself nice and early, Stuart Pearce.
Yeah, Dan, so I covered both the away games earlier on in the group, and similar format, City dominating it, but they didn't put the opposition to bed when they could have done in both the games, and it ended up being, I wouldn't say a real struggle, but certainly from a game that you thought they were going to be more than comfortable in and see it out 2 or 3-0, it didn't develop that way.
Well, in terms of shots, when Red Star came to the Etihad on match day 1, it was 37 shots to 3 in Manchester City's favour, but the first shot that Red Star had went in to make it 1-0. Bukhari scored just before half-time, but Julian Alvarez quickly restored parity early in the second half, and Manchester City went on to win by 3-1. But yeah, 37 shots to 3 in favour of the Citizens. Poor pass from Calvin Phillips. That's not what he would have wanted early on, to put the ball out of play for a Red Star throw, 0-0.
This was the point I was making earlier then, that we've just seen. Ortega's not got the ability to hit that ball 70, 80 yards like Ederson has, and all of a sudden the opposition squeezed on with numbers because they know they're not vulnerable in behind.
Red Star 0, Manchester City 0 in the Champions League on Talksport 2. Played 5 minutes. Leipzig had just taken the lead against Young Boys in the other game in this group. Leipzig already through. Against the Swiss side, they lead inside 6 minutes, but it's 0-0 in Belgrade. Ortega has the ball at his feet again, and he's asked to clip it up to Grealish. He's found him again on halfway, but Grealish immediately converged upon by 2 Red Star players, so Akanji has to work it back to Stefan Ortega once more, and one route's being cut off by Njai, the striker. Plays it along the deck to the edge of the centre circle. Oscar Bob goes to ground, and he's won a free kick, just taken out from behind, and it's a free kick to Manchester City at the edge of the centre circle inside their own half. Taken out to the right hand side, and Hamilton goes in strongly to win the ball back on halfway, but he's lost it in the end, and it's worked back by Kanga, who now picks it up at the edge of the centre circle, looks to play it over the top for Njai, but it's very well dealt with by John Stones, who's regaining his fitness with every time he steps out on the pitch for Manchester City. Heads it back to his keeper, 0-0.
Just looking at the Red Star coach there, Bakar, he looks half a Bond villain, doesn't he? You know, he's got this necklace around his neck that looks as though it's a key to maybe a nuclear weapon potentially.
He certainly doesn't smile, so he's got the Bond villain look. He's got a scowl, but then Pep Guardiola's not known for a toothy grin on the touchline, and he stood at the edge of his technical area with plenty to say and flapping his hands down by his side as though he's a bit unhappy with the way that his team are going about their business early on in this game. Rico Lewis for City finds Akanji just inside his own half. Grealish comes short to the halfway line, takes it away from Nedeljkovic and comes in field. Just to his right is Matheus Nunez. Bob is waiting at the edge of the area, but Nunez sees the run of Grealish, doesn't use him, it's a decoy really, and then Bob works it wide to Hamilton. Back it goes to Lewis. The 2 youngsters in combination play over on that far side for Manchester City. Now it's left by Sergio Gomez for Rico Lewis. Hamilton wants it again on that right wing. He might get it, but instead Nunez takes over. Very patient from Manchester City. Not much tempo to this game so far, Stuart Pearce.
No, not at the moment. Red Star happy to sit back with a sort of low block when they have to. If they can squeeze up the pitch, they do. But the thing that impresses me with City, no matter what changes they make, there's a pattern to what they do that is similar to whoever plays in any position.
Well, this is what they presumably do from under 13s through under 18s. It's like what they've tried to do with St George's Park and England, and have all the national teams play a similar system right the way through to the seniors.
Yeah, you've almost got a set pattern of play, but within that there's flexibility for individuals to flourish.
8 minutes gone, 0-0 on Talksport 2. Bob, right-hand corner of the penalty area, lays it off to Nunez, tried to ship it back into Bob's path down the right-hand side of the box, but Red Star can clear. And Jai, holding the ball up inside his own half, runs into trouble, but he's been fouled. And the Azerbaijani referee, Aliar Aghayev, gives a free kick to Red Star, who would like to finish off their European season with a win and deny Manchester City maximum points. And they have the ball at the back with Spajic out to the left-hand side, and Dragovic given back to the Austrian, former Leicester defender, can play at centre-half, playing at left-back tonight. Now the keeper, Glazer, looks up to halfway, brought down well, and Kanga loses possession to Kovacic's opposite number. And now Micah Hamilton tries to weave through a couple of challenges. Not really had a chance to strut his stuff yet, Michael Hamilton, and show us those street footballer skills for which he's become known since going through the youth ranks. Kanga has it again, and he finds Olayinka. Early ball looking for Bukhari, but that was well dealt with by Sergio Gomez. But Nedeljkovic picks the loose ball back up for Red Star, and the Serbians have it on halfway. Bukhari again steps away from Sergio Gomez, comes infield, tries to thread it down the right-hand side of the box, but Manuel Akanji very calmly tidies up for the Premier League side, and Sergio Gomez just clips it infield to Kovacic, and Manchester City clear their lines. 0-0, drops on halfway for Spajic. 10 minutes gone on Talksport 2. That Leipzig goal was ruled out incidentally. It's still 0-0 in that other game in this group. VAR intervened for that Leipzig goal, so it remains as it is here, 0-0. Ball's back with Glazer. Poor clearance from the Red Star keeper. Barely made it to the midway point of his own half, but it's still hooked over halfway, looking to get Bukhari. Definitely playing a front three, aren't they, Red Star? With Bukhari, Olayinka and Njai, trying to keep that Manchester City back four as far back as they can.
Yeah, they are. As I say, they're trying to put a press on when they possibly can. So a lot of that is the fact that Ortega's in sticks, and he's not got that distribution length, which makes life a little bit easier. But City have been very, very confident in playing out and through that press when they've had to.
That's Stuart Pearce alongside me, Ian Danter. Stuart, of course, former Manchester City manager, former Newcastle player. Newcastle in action tonight against Milan at St James's Park. Adrian Durham is there for Talksport tonight. Kick-off goes around the grounds from 7 p.m. this evening in the Champions League and in the EFL, and we have a live commentary for you from the Championship here on Talksport 2. The conclusion of this game will be off to the King Power with Jim Proudfoot and Dean Ashton. Leicester City against Millwall. Now Jack Grealish has got a bit of a problem here. He's just on his haunches, midway point of his own half. Something happened off the ball there for the England star, and he just needs a bit of treatment here. 0-0 the score, 11 goal.
Yeah, it's a strange one. He's come deep with the ball, and fullback's gone in with him to press him pretty hard, but all of a sudden I'm not seeing the fullback game really touch tight on him, and there's something happened off the ball that he's got a little dig in the ribs potentially.
He's stood up now, and he's got a couple of the City physio staff around him. But yeah, it's a hip problem, isn't it? Or he's holding his side.
Well, he just seemed to be running along, and then all of a sudden just stopped, didn't he? There was no contact.
No contact. Anybody. Completely on his own. So he might have strained a side muscle or something along those lines. So there's a break in play whilst players take on water, and the referee tells Jack Grealish he's going to have to leave the field, at least temporarily. That's the rule now. If the physio's come on to treat you, you've got to wait 30 seconds before you can re-enter the fray.
Yeah, those type of injuries can be pretty sore. You know, it looks as he's just holding just behind central of his ribs there.
Oh, I think they're the worst. The side strains that you think you're never ever going to get rid of. You wake up in the morning, you think, right, today's the day. You go, oh God, not again.
Yeah, you've obviously talking about picking them up in the mosh pit on occasion, you know, at the gigs you go to, Dan.
You're far more likely to end up in a mosh pit than me. back underway. Grealish has been allowed back on the field a bit quicker than I would have expected. 0-0, 13 minutes gone on Talksport 2 in the Champions League. Red Star 0, Manchester City 0. Manchester City aiming for group stage perfection tonight, looking to make it 6 wins from 6. Grealish, who appears to be okay, having had the magic sponge or the magic freeze spray, whatever it is they've used on him, and the ball's gone back to Ortega. No real pressing on him this time from Red Star, although Njai now showing a bit of interest. So it's a short pass from Ortega into the feet of Oscar Bob, who's come very, very deep to pick up possession, deeper than Calvin Phillips was to receive the ball.
Yeah, just offering a little bit of rotation there. Obviously the two deep line midfield players in Kovacic and Phillips getting tightly marked, and then that little bit of rotation with Oscar Bob coming for a touch.
Bob is now out on the right wing with the ball at his feet, just inside the Red Star half. Gives it back to halfway, and John Stones. Just next to him is Calvin Phillips in the centre circle. Short pass for Kovacic, who turned his man Kanga and was brought down. Free kick to Manchester City. They take it quickly, and Sergio Gomez now running through the inside left position, flicks it out to Grealish, level with the box now. Up against Nedeljkovic. Goes to ground under pressure from the Red Star fullback, and the hosts have won it back. And Kanga looks to send it over halfway for Njai. Njai infield to Hwang. South Korean goes out to the left wing for Olayinka. Good break this from Red Star. Olayinka up against Rico Lewis. Level with the edge of the area. Back for Hwang. Lovely reverse pass for Bakari. Inside the box, faced up by Stones. Left-hand side of the area. Bakari tried to make room for the shot, but Stones stayed on his feet, blocked the shot, and got the ball away from danger in the end for a Red Star throw. Quarter now gone, 0-0.
Yeah, good play there by John Stones. Kept his eye on the ball and dealt with any potential problems, but this is probably where City are vulnerable. You know, they spread to play, they push players up the pitch, and the games against Young Boys and Leipzig, that counter-attack threat was a problem to them.
As we mentioned, Red Star are playing 3 up tonight to try and give Manchester City's defenders something to think about. Remember, City making 9 changes from the team which started against Luton on Sunday. Only Kovacic and Grealish surviving. Micah Hamilton making his debut for the club tonight, and he waits on the right-hand side of City, win it back. Grealish spots Hamilton making a run towards the right-hand corner of the box, but he's gone square to Kovacic, but Kovacic loses out to Hwang in Byom, and the Korean looks to release Bakari over the top. He's in behind Akanji, but Ortega comes out, the City goalkeeper, and heads it out for a throw-in on this near side. 0-0.
There was that counter-attack threat again on turnover of possession. It was basically 2-on-2, both centre forwards peeling out into the channels, and Ortega done extremely well there to read danger and just got off his goal line outside his box.
Yeah, good starting position from Ortega, but just another sign that this is not going to be a one-sided encounter. Red Star can't keep the ball in play on halfway, and so City will have a throw on their left-hand side. 0-0 the score. 18 European games unbeaten, Manchester City. Red Star 122 home league games unbeaten, which is a new world record, eclipsing that of Real Madrid. Amazing. Here is Hamilton in plenty of space for Manchester City, down the right-hand side of the area. Nunez in support of the right-hand corner. Now Rico Lewis takes over just nearby. Has to play the ball back 15 yards to Stones. First time ball out to Nunez, right wing. Swings across in to the far post, but Grealish and Bob had gone near, and Red Star can just let the ball drift out of play for a throw. 0-0.
Interesting to hear the words of Pep in the build, not in the build up to this game, but I think it was last week. He said we lack a bit of creativity, and that's probably what we're seeing at the moment. We're the best part of 20 minutes into the game now, and that lack of creativity within the ranks. They keep the ball very well, make no mistake, but that little bit of creativity, that final pass to get someone in.
The next game is Saturday afternoon against Crystal Palace at the Etihad for Manchester City, and then they will take on the winners of Lyon and Urawa Red Diamonds in the Club World Cup the following Tuesday.
How do you think they view the World Cup challenge?
Well, traditionally, we here in this country don't give it a great deal of credence, do we? Whereas, listening to Tim Vickery on Hawksby and Jacobs this afternoon, the Brazilian teams are so into and the Brazilian nation so into the idea of a Club World Cup. Pep is a slightly different animal, of course. He's not from this country. He's a Spaniard. I think he might give it a bit more. He might, in terms of his team talks and how he motivates his players, I think he might give them a bit more to think about. Now here's Hamilton for Manchester City in the area, right-hand side, gets a shot away and scores on his debut for Manchester City. What a moment for Micah Hamilton. Inside the box, twisted and turned Dragovic, got a shot away and it blasted high into the roof of the net. Brilliant stuff from the youngster on his debut. Micah Hamilton has a moment to remember. A Champions League goal to put the citizens ahead. Red Star 0, Manchester City 1.
Yeah, fantastic movement there. Grealish coming in off the line, slid the ball out. Núñez helped it on, and Hamilton took his man on. One movement on the outside and unloaded a hell of a shot straight above the goalkeeper's head. Wonderful finish from this young man.
20 years of age and has really had to bide his time before getting his opportunity in the Manchester City first team. But what a moment. And he's just closed his eyes and half looked up to the heavens. I think he's just taking it in, Stuart, what he's just done.
Yeah, it's that old thing though, a young man coming out the academy system, the fans that are there watching, the City fans back home will think, how good's this? You know, we can spend multi-millions on players, but I tell you what, there's no better feeling for a young man than getting on the score sheet on your debut.
VAR's taken a look. They're happy that there were no problems with that goal. They might have been checking whether Hamilton was offside when he received the ball. He clearly wasn't. And so it's Red Star 0, Manchester City 1 on Talksport 2. We played 20 minutes in Belgrade and already we have a brilliant story for you.
Well, we certainly do. It was tight on the offside. His timing was absolutely perfect, actually, where he sort of darted in behind.
Just seeing an offside against Bukhari as Red Star tried to respond. But he was slightly ahead of Akanji as far as the assistant was concerned on this near side. Free kick to City.
So the timing of Hamilton's movement was very, very good. But what I liked is the way he drove at the fullback, you know, got him in the box and put him on the back foot and was looking to get an effort at goal.
Oh yeah, no fear from Micah Hamilton on the biggest of stages in European club football. And I'm sure Pep will be peppered with questions about the youngster in the post-match press conference after a moment like that. He did bring a few young players over in the squad. There were rumours that Micah Hamilton was the most likely to get a start, but it wasn't confirmed until a couple of hours before kick-off. And he now waits on the far side of the field to receive a pass from Rico Lewis. But Oscar Bob has come short once again. Just caught by Hwang. Free kick to Manchester City, almost at the midway point of the half. And Bob gets things back underway very quickly. A short free kick back to Rico Lewis. And those three young players who've come through the academy, seeing a lot of the ball out there. Lewis, Bob and Hamilton. Not shy about getting involved tonight, Stuart Pearce.
Well, they would have been coached the Manchester City way from a very early age, I'm sure, at the academy, and they can deal with the ball. Anyone who gets the opportunity to play in this football team would have had to impress the manager on the training pitch, probably month after month, year after year.
Throw in taken quickly by Rico Lewis. Suspicion of a foul throw, the way he put that back into play, but I didn't see anything wrong with it. He's got it back from Stones. Rico Lewis just over the halfway line on the right hand side for Manchester City, who lead by a goal to nil. If you're just tuning in to Champions League Live on Talksport 2, Micah Hamilton on his debut for Manchester City, powering home a strike in the 19th minute for a moment he will never forget. Ball's back with Ortega, the City keeper. Scott Carson's on the bench. How old is he now? What, 41? 42, Scott Carson?
Yeah, must be.
He might get a couple of minutes if Pep's feeling particularly generous later on, you never know.
I don't think you'll be that generous, my friend.
Maybe not. Maybe I'm just being too romantic about the whole idea. Ball's gone straight through to Ortega as Red Star tried to attack. So we're midway through the first half, and Red Star have got a problem on their hands. How to go at Manchester City but not leave too many gaps in behind that City can exploit and extend their lead still further. Ball's back with Akanji. Floats the ball over to Rico Lewis, who heads it up to halfway, controlled by Hamilton and given back to Lewis, just the other side of the halfway line. Olayinka's come to close him down, and John Stones will roll it back for his goalkeeper. Plenty of live football to come. You're going to be watching Nottingham Forest and Tottenham for Talksport on Friday night, aren't you, Stuart?
I certainly am. I'm really looking forward to that one. I think it's got all the makings of being a great game, and Forest and their fans have really got to come to the party against a Spurs team that are very pleasant on the eye.
Friday night football on Talksport, and the little matter of the Old Farm Derby, Saturday lunchtime on Talksport. Ipswich versus Norwich. Should be a great game in prospect at Portman Road. Ipswich coming from behind to beat Watford last night. Whole game live on Talksport as part of game day. I'll be at St James's Park for Newcastle against Fulham on Saturday afternoon. And don't forget the darts. Darts on the radio. Back on Talksport 2 starting on Friday evening. We've got the band back together to be at Alexandra Palace for the World Championship darts from the PDC. The first sporting world champion will be crowned on the 3rd of January. And it will be in the world of darts. Can Michael Smith retain his world title in a very competitive field? We'll be on air from 7 p.m. Friday evening on Talksport 2 with darts on the radio. Myself, Mark Wilson, Chris Mason, Paul Nicholson and the team. Hope you can join us throughout the tournament for regular commentaries on the darts. Ball's won on halfway by Manchester City, who lead by a goal to nil. Mateo Kovacic looking to flick the ball out to Grealish, but showed too much of that down the right hand side. It's brought away by Nasser Jiga. Works it in field to Kanga. Early ball for Hwang, who tried to let the ball run across his body. He did, and gets it back from Olayinka. Tries to drop the shoulder as well, Hwang, and get away from Hamilton, but his cross from the left-hand side is collected at the corner of the penalty area by Rico Lewis, but a hurried clearance from Manchester City. Bukhari's got it back, shaped to shoot 25 yards out and then thought better of it. Flicked it out wide to Nedeljkovic, the right-back, and he's won a throw-in of Sergio Gomez. 1-0 to Manchester City.
Yeah, at this moment in time, it probably says more about the league than Red Star's home form at league level, doesn't it, you know?
Yeah, fearsome at home in the league, but Champions League is another matter. Hwang works the ball in field to Dragovic, who's come forward. Now Njai at the back to goal, edge of the area. Nedeljkovic checks back onto his left, curls it just over the bar. What a chance for Red Star and for Costa. Nedeljkovic, the right back, who cut it on his left foot, left Kovacic, I think, standing, but curled his left-footed shot just past the angle of post and bar, and Manchester City hold on to their 1-goal lead.
Well, I've just got the words out of my mouth, and Red Star done brilliantly to fashion an effort there. Grealish has come across to stop the first effort from Nedeljkovic, but he's let him, the serial thing that you never ever do as a defender, let them cut back inside. He let him do that. He opened the goal up, and then all of a sudden his left foot certainly wasn't up to the task of potentially his right foot.
Red Star Youth Academy graduate Costa Nedeljkovic so close to equalising for Red Star. 27 minutes gone, it remains Red Star 0, Manchester City 1 on Talksport 2. Micah Hamilton on his debut, scoring in the 19th minute to put City ahead, looking for 6 wins out of 6 in the group stage. Ian Danter and Stuart Pearce with you on Talksport 2. Lewis can bring the ball uncontested over the halfway line in the right back position. Hwang now coming to close down the angle, so Lewis stops. Hamilton further out on the touchline, but he's gone back to John Stones. Now Sergio Gomez, who's cut in field to the centre of the Red Star half, spots Grealish, left wing, gives it to Grealish, goes for the byline, pulls it across the face of goal on his left foot, headed behind by Olejinka, knowing that Micah Hamilton was right behind him, and Manchester City have a corner, 1-0 up.
Yeah, I think it was Dyger once again come across to deal with Grealish, and he's showing him too much of the line, and Grealish, all he's got to do is drag it with his right and cross with his left.
So Lewis will take the corner, works it back to Kovacic, back out to the right hand side, run down the right hand side of the area from Nunez, fires it across the face of goal. It was palmed away by Glazer, only as far as Kovacic once again. An uncertain save, but he got something on it, did Henri Glazer. Out to the right hand side, Manchester City still have it, still plenty forward in dark blue shirts. Kovacic towards the edge of the area, tried a shot, didn't really give it his full, and it didn't look that convincing. And now a counter-attack for Red Star, and it's Bukhari, a ball across the face of goal, but out comes Ortega smartly to around the 15-yard mark to collect. Good idea from Bukhari to swing the ball across, but Ortega was wise to it. 1-0 City.
Yeah, this is the third of those counter-attacks we've seen, and Ortega's done brilliantly once again, got off his line and got out beyond the penalty spot to basically cut the cross out. Bukhari done extremely well. I hadn't thought that he'd seen the crossfield pass, but a wonderful ball.
Grealish for Manchester City, left-hand side. Steps inside Giga, tries to float it to the right-hand side for Hamilton, headed away by Dragovic. But Manchester City have it back once again. And it's Oscar Bob getting involved. Hamilton, the goal scorer. Right-hand corner of the penalty area, gives it back to Bob. He's got Hwang watching his every move. Now City slow the move down a little bit and work it back to Lewis. Taking the game down to walking pace, with Red Star holding their line just ahead of the 18-yard box. Back it goes to Stones on halfway. We played half an hour on Talksport 2. Red Star 0, Manchester City 1. Oscar Bob coming short once more to the midway point of the Red Star half. Finds Calvin Phillips. Steers it to the right for Lewis. Hamilton waiting on the right wing. Receives it now. Almost level with the edge of the Red Star penalty area. Now it comes in field. Oscar Bob with a great run into the area. Onto his left, and the shot is blocked on its way to goal by Spajic. And Red Star may be able to counter once again. Looking over halfway for Njayi this time. And he will reach it, but he's had to drift all the way out to the far left-hand touchline. Early ball in field looking for the run of Bukhari, but the pass is overhit and straight through to Ortega. 1-0 City.
Yeah, as you said, Dance, the pass was overhit, and that's been the story of those counter-attacks at this moment in time. Either an overhit pass or an underhit pass, but certainly they've got a couple of options to break. It's all City, but every now and then there is a break on.
Sergio Gomez doing that thing where a Manchester City fullback comes into midfield. Grealish in acres of space on the left-hand side, but you've just spotted Stuart. He's still looking a little uncomfortable after that side injury we noted earlier.
I'm not sure we'll see him in the second half, to be fair. There's been a couple of occasions where when the ball's gone away from him, he's just holding those ribs, and as you rightly pointed out from your days in the mosh pit, you know, that doesn't solve itself overnight.
No amount of Nurofen gel, other gels are available, that can solve that particular problem. see how Jack Grealish copes in a mosh pit. Anyway, back to the game. 1-0 to Manchester City. 32 minutes played on Talksport 2. Remember, Leicester City against Millwall is our second live game of the night here on Talksport 2. We'll be checking in with our commentary team of Jim Proudfoot and Dean Ashton at half-time in this game. They'll be at the King Power waiting to speak to us, whilst Adrian Durham picks up the cudgels over on Talksport 7. He'll be based at St James Park, Newcastle, with AC Milan in town, and he'll be taking you around the grounds on Talksport in the Champions League and the EFL. Lots of games in the Championship tonight. Coventry against Southampton, as well as Leicester Millwall towards the top of the table. Here is John Stones for Manchester City in the centre circle. It's worked out to Grealish on the left-hand side. Looks early for Kovacic, who's bursting down the left-hand side of the box. Great ball across, and somehow Matheus Nunez contrives to steer the ball wide of the target when it looked for all the world that he made it 2-0. Super ball across from the left-hand side from Mateo Kovacic, and it looked like Matheus Nunes had converted it for 2-0. Not so.
Really good play there, Grealish. This might have just been offside, maybe a stray foot, but Kovacic darted down in the inside left channel and pulled one across, and Nunes really should have finished a lot better than he actually did.
Well, Nunes can be at least grateful that Dion Charles has already had the miss of the week in football when he missed a sitter for Bolton in the Monday night game we brought you on Talksport 2 down at Fratton Park against Portsmouth. That wasn't far off being just as glaring a miss from Matheus Nunes, and I didn't see a flag, so it would have counted. 1-0 it remains with 12 minutes to half time. Here's Nedeljkovic on halfway for Red Star. Cutting infield, has to give the ball back past Giga to his goalkeeper Omri Glazer, who joined from the Israeli side Hapoel Beersheva in the summer. Regular goalkeeper, assumed the number 1 jersey pretty much straight away from Zoran Popovic, but his long clearance downfield finds the other goalkeeper out there, Stefan Ortega. Stones in no rush to get the ball out of his own half, just clips the ball up to halfway, and Nunes, he lays it off to Lewis. Hamilton receives it just over the halfway line. Nunes had made a run ahead of him, but instead it's given back to Rico Lewis. Nunes again hugging the far touch line. Red Star, good pressing, not allowing Manchester City to dwell on the ball in those areas, but John Stones once again now has plenty of time to size up his options midway point of his own half. Square ball to his left for Akanji, and under pressure from Nedeljkovic, he's gone back to Ortega. Let's see what the quality of this pass is like, as we've been watching what Ortega can do compared to Ederson. Short pass for Kovacic, who's straight under pressure from his opposite number Kanga, and now Akanji floats the ball out to the right fullback position, and a brilliant turn from Rico Lewis to try and get away from Hwang, who did pull him back by the shoulder. City have a free kick and they lead 1-0 on Talksport 2.
See what you've got there, when Ortega's got the ball at his feet, his body language is suggesting he can't see a pass. All that does is encourage a Red Star press. I don't think they're pressing particularly aggressively up and down, but they're cutting off passing lines, and when they do play it forward, as we saw there, Kovacic was under a lot of pressure from in behind.
Nunes will work it out to Lewis, who will be able to get up to the halfway line for Manchester City. Cuts in field, Kovacic waiting in the centre circle, but Lewis looked for the invisible man. I think he was passing to Pep Guardiola, his manager, with a floated pass he hit there. It's gone straight out of play for a throw. The look he's just got from his manager suggests that he might not just get a cup of tea handed to him in the changing room at half time. He might be slung his way. Now on halfway, it's picked up by Chefin Jai. Osman Bukhari inside the area, just too heavy a touch to get past Akanji, and that allowed Ortega to pick it up. Bukhari claiming he was being obstructed, but the Azerbaijani referee says nothing doing. 9 minutes to half time, Manchester City lead 1-0, Stuart Pearce.
Yeah, every time the likes of Ndiaye and Bukhari have picked the ball up, they've just been short of quality, haven't they? You know, they've had some really good opportunities to counter-attack, play their teammate in behind, or take someone on one-on-one, and they've just fell short on every occasion, thankfully.
I know what you mean about Barak Bakar's necklace, the manager of Red Star. It does look like one of those nuclear keys where you have to have two, turn at the same time to get the nuclear warhead operational in a Bond movie.
I have the other one, that's how I know it is.
Here come Red Star, a goal down, but Bukhari floating the ball up to the area, but it was easily picked off by Lewis, and now it's brought forward by Hamilton. Nunes takes over on the halfway, and again he's trying to stretch his legs as he did in the very early stages. Matheus Nunes into the area, great run. Oh, he just toe poked it away from Oscar Bob as two Red Star defenders came right in on him. He tried to release the ball for Oscar Bob, but just toe poked it away from his teammate, and out to play for a goal kick. 1-0.
Yeah, when you see the likes of Bob and Hamilton getting the opportunity to stake a claim around the first team, for me this would send out worrying signals if I was Jack Grealish. It really would, because I'm not sure there's enough of a return for my money when you've paid the finance they have. I mean, as we stand at the moment, he's got 2 goals this season. Hamilton's only one behind him.
It's very true. I mean, of course it took Jack Grealish a while in his first season to establish himself. It's probably easy to say he's more part of the furniture now in this second season. However, form is temporary, and sometimes that form can make a manager's mind up for them.
Well, especially when you've got a balance of books in many ways, you know.
Yeah.
You know, if you're looking, we've got some good youngsters coming through the academy, and if we can move a player on, I'm just saying, I think he'd done exactly that with Sterling potentially, which raised a few eyebrows when they moved him on.
Now here is Grealish in a bit of space inside left channel, approaching the area, goes on the outside of Giga, tries a cross, and Giga gets a foot on it, goes behind for a City corner. Just over 6 minutes to half time. Manchester City lead by a goal to nil, and they've won their second corner of the game. And Grealish is going over to take it. I'm sure Villa would take him back.
I'm not sure they paid the money to take him back.
That's very true. No cut price offers going, you imagine. Grealish takes the corner out to the left-hand corner of the box, and it's picked up by Micah Hamilton. Grealish takes over, left-hand corner of the box, plays a strange cross-come shot that fires away from everybody, almost hits the corner flag on the far side of the field. It's a goal kick to Red Star.
Yeah, I don't know what he was attempting there, whether that was a cross or it should have been, I think, a curler into the far corner with no curl on it whatsoever.
Well, we'll see whether Jack Grealish indeed does emerge at the start of the second half. We mentioned that slight side strain he appeared to have picked up early on in the game. Red Star trying to come forward, looking to release Bukhari, but Akanji very, very calm in defence. Sergio Gomez, heavy touch, but he manages to work the ball in field to Phillips. Phillips is pushed over by Hwang, and he's won a free kick. I mean, tonight isn't pivotal for Calvin Phillips. His future's not going to be decided by the way he plays in this game, Stuart Pearce, but he won't want to have any moments that give people an excuse to give him more jip.
Listen, he's a professional young man, and he'll want to play well in every game that he gets the opportunity, and he'll be acutely aware that he's hardly had an opportunity in a year and a half, to be quite honest with you. And when he has, the longer time's gone on, I think, the more he looks short of match fitness and sharpness.
City give the ball away, midway point of their own half. Hwang works it out to Olayinka, left-hand corner of the box for Red Star. Gets the ball on his right and fires it well at goal, but it's straight into the grateful gloves of Stefan Ortega. Shot was on target, but the goalkeeper didn't have to move. 1-0 City.
Yeah, as I say, City have looked a little bit under pressure on time. Straight balls into midfield with their midfield players with a back to play. It's a difficult ball to deal with, and the press from Red Star has not been too bad, and they've got to be careful. They've been fortunate that it's been adjudged on 2 or 3 occasions. Free kicks have been sort of meted out.
That's Stuart Pearce alongside me, Ian Danta, here on Talksport 2, and Jack Grealish's first half kind of summed up by his inability to control the pass out that came his way just a moment or so ago from Ortega, and he did the old horse impression as the ball went past him. I think, it's not my night. 1-0 to Manchester City.
I'm not sure his manager will be feeding him any mince or carrots at half time, no doubt.
Could be straight on the coach.
Or horse box.
No, exactly.
The case may be.
I'm sure it's a luxury one. They usually are. A free kick to Manchester City inside their own half that they've taken short. It's picked up on halfway by Nunez, who had that brilliant early run for Manchester City. We hadn't played 2 minutes before he was really stretching his legs and getting away from Dragovic down the City right, but that was the only time we've really seen that electric pace of the former Wolves man brought to the club in the summer. Here's Kovacic up against Giga, who's come out of centre half to engage him. Nunez again in the centre circle, finds Calvin Phillips. Good play from Phillips, works it to Lewis, who can motor into the Red Star half, comes in field for the right touchline. Hamilton just to his right, gives it to Hamilton just inside the box, right hand side. Bit of twinkle toes from Micah Hamilton, then turns away from Hwang, still has it right hand corner of the box. We're going to drop his shoulder once, twice and get away from his man, but he ends up having to roll it back to John Stones just to keep the move alive for Manchester City.
Yeah, I thought they had a great opportunity there with Rico Lewis driving into midfield, but as soon as the attack was stopped, that was it. You know, players don't gamble with the ball at all.
Heading towards half-time then, Manchester City a goal to the good, and they've conceded a free kick. Hwang was fouled inside his own half of the field. The Korean who joined in September from Olympiacos. He's approaching half a century of caps for his country. And it doesn't seem like a year since I was watching him play for South Korea at the World Cup in Qatar. Where has that 12 months gone, Stuart?
No, you're right.
No idea.
Well, when I walked out my house tonight, this time last year, I was going out in shorts and a T-shirt to jump on the metro and go and commentate on a game, which was absolutely wonderful, I've got to say.
Yeah, some of us look better in shorts and T-shirts than others. No names, no pack drill.
Indeed. Tonight I was in a donkey jacket and lederhousens.
And that's what you usually wear when you go to gigs. Ball's back with Ortega, the Manchester City goalkeeper. Short pass for Akanji, left-hand corner of the area. Faced up by Bukhari. It's a good ball, actually, from Akanji to find Nunez, who's running through the centre circle. Bob to his left, Hamilton to his right. He flicked it right to Hamilton. Across the face and goal, just beyond Oscar Bob, who was sliding in. Grealish has kept it in play. Left-hand side of the area. Can he pick out a teammate? Rolls it back to Kovacic. Across for Calvin Phillips, who goes for goal and puts it wide. Another super break from Manchester City, and Oscar Bob was inches away from sliding in to convert Hamilton's cross, but it stays 1-0.
Super move there by City. Nunez creating it with his sheer lack of pace and his sheer pace and driving straight at the heart of the back line, which I really like about him. And the ball from Hamilton across the face of goal just needed a little bit of curl, and taking half ounce of weight off it would have been absolutely perfect.
About to find out how much minimum stoppage time we've got at the end of this first half in Belgrade. Red Star in possession, looking to release Nedeljkovic down the right-hand side. He's got it, level with the Manchester City penalty area. We're into 1 minute of minimum stoppage time. Kanga plays the ball in field. Hwang puts the ball into the box, just goes beyond Njai, goes behind him. He couldn't turn and collect it in time, and it's cleared away only as far as Dragovic. Hwang now picks it up just ahead of the halfway line. Has to go back left to Dragovic, with Manchester City pushing up towards the halfway line. Have Red Star got another attack in them before the half-time whistle goes? Might break for Kanga here on this near side, but very stylishly brought away by Manuel Akanji, the Swiss. Up to halfway, flicks the ball in field. Grealish goes over the defender, Spajic, and he's got a free kick for his troubles as Grealish. One last chance for City to put the ball into the danger area, a 0-0.
Well, if we weren't sure whether his ribs were up to it there, Grealish, we've certainly found out there in the first place that his left hand's gone to is that rib area that he had a problem with earlier.
Uroš Spajic sparing him nothing. Went over his hip, really, and he was booked for that challenge. Was the giant centre-half of Red Star. So we played that minimum minute, so presumably this free kick that Manchester City now have will be the last action of this first half on Talksport 2. Pep Guardiola still pacing up and down at the edge of his technical area, rarely still, rarely satisfied. But his team are ahead. And now Grealish is back to his feet. The free kick has been taken short. The referee says that's enough. And Manchester City lead by 1-0 in Belgrade at half-time. The story of that first half is for the debutant, Micah Hamilton. His first ever game for Manchester City, and he scored in the 19th minute, receiving the ball right-hand side of the area, dropped his shoulder to get away from the former Leicester man, Dragovic, and hammered the ball into the roof of the net from a pretty tight angle. What a moment for the youngster. Grealish is having plenty of words with the Azerbaijani referee as we come off, complaining, I think, about the roughhouse treatment he's received in the first half. But that's gone about as well as can be expected for Manchester City in that first half, Stuart Pearce.
Yeah, they've dominated the ball, no doubt about that. The odd counter-attack potential option, but Red Star have not shown the quality to actually threaten the goal. But from their point of view, clean sheet, 1-0 up, and a youngster who's been blooded tonight has got himself on the score sheet. He'll be absolutely delighted.
Yeah, I mean, him sitting down in the dressing room now, I can only imagine how Micah Hamilton's feeling. He's had to wait an awful long time for a first-team chance at the age of 20, which is still a pretty tender age. But I don't know whether the manager will be, filling him with joy and happiness, or whether he'll be just trying to temper that enthusiasm a little bit.
Yeah, well, listen, he'll know the kid and what the kid's like, basically. So, but listen, it's fantastic to get your debut for your football club, there's no doubt. But to actually score on your debut, that's a special moment.
And not exactly a tap-in either.
It was a wonderful goal. As I say, he was isolated one-on-one with his full-back, and he done exactly what a decent winger should do, drop a shoulder and unload a shot.
Anything that City aren't doing as well as they should be in this first half?
Just got to be careful in playing those straight balls into midfield. There's been a couple of times where the likes of Kovacic receiving the ball with his back to play, if he loses possession, I know you've got to trust him, but if you do lose possession, there's a big problem. And the counter-attack, there's been 3 or 4 attempts on counter-attack where they've been isolated 2-on-2. That's the only way I can see Red Star scoring.
Manchester City aiming for group stage perfection, and they're halfway tonight towards achieving that 6 wins out of 6. We'll bring you the full second half live here on Talksport 2, and we'll be off shortly to the King Power to check in with our commentary team ahead of our second commentary a little later from the Championship with Leicester City against Millwall. But the half-time score in Belgrade is Red Star 0, Manchester City 1.
Talksport 2, official broadcast partner of the Premier League and the EFL.
Hear the biggest sports stories first and fast with the Back Page Review on Talksport with Tesco Mobile for Business. Listen to Talksport Breakfast every weekday morning from 6 for the latest breaking Back Page news, plus unbeatable reaction, opinion and comment. The Back Page Review on Talksport with Tesco Mobile for Business. Join Tesco Mobile and get business phone bills for up to 40% less than the big mobile networks. Tesco Mobile, every little helps. For applicable terms and verification, see tescomobile.com/business.
Hi, I'm Danny Dyer, and welcome to What's That Smell? Ugh, smoky with a hint of burgers. It's my barbecue apron. Luckily, I can make this smell like freshly picked lilies. Just pop it in the washing machine, add some Surf Tropical Lily laundry detergent, and... oh, my fave. It smells like my dream holiday. Get long-lasting fragrance with natural essential oils with Surf laundry detergent. You can make anything perf with Surf.
Relax. Concentrate on your breathing. Hanging in the cold air because your boiler's broken. But no need to worry. With British Gas Home Care Cover, you can get your boiler repaired again and again. Repeat our mantra. Home care.
Search British Gas Home Care Cover. See website for terms.
Talksport 2. Traffic and travel.
In Hampshire, the M275 northbound's got severe delays. It's been closed from Junction 1 and the M27 for emergency barrier repairs. In Surrey, anti-clockwise, the M25 has got delays. The broken down cars closed a lane after Junction 6. Queues are back to 9 for Leatherhead. In Essex, clockwise, the M25 has got severe delays after an earlier breakdown. That's after Junction 27. And in South Yorkshire, there are queues for 5 miles northbound on the M1. A lane closed because of a breakdown after Junction 36 for Barnsley South.
Talksport Podcast League. Outspoken. The best of White and Jordan.
Now available in one unmissable daily podcast.
He's going to be in charge for a considerable period of time.
It's a load of old pony. The final word on the final scores with Jim Mighty White.
I really mean this with sincerity.
And Simon the Saint Jordan.
What on earth have you got?
I think I look like the Saint. I think it's a Simon Temple outlook. I expected to hear the na-na-na-na-na-na.
Outspoken. Out now.
Listen or download for free from your favourite podcast portal.
Fisherman's Blues with Nigel Botherway this Sunday morning from 6 on Talksport 2.
Now what you hear is not a test. I'm fishing to the beach.
Nice one.
And me the groove. And my chums are gonna try to soak your feet. Cause he is one to Nige and he'd like to say hello.
How you doing?
To the hake, to the carp, to the trout and the cod and the mackerel and minnow. Check it out. He's the FIS and the HER. The rest is FLY. You see he goes by the code of the god of the rod. And these reasons I'll tell you why. You see, come rain or shine, he'll be deep in brine doing catch and release with a bivouac, a bobble hat, and his angling trusty fleece. He tackles riverbank news on fisherman blues from four corners of the aisle. How to cast a fly, what bait to buy, which waiters are in style. Oh, yeah.
Turbots charged radio for men in wellies.
Fisherman's Blues with me, Nigel, by the way.
This Sunday morning from 6 on Talksport 2.
It's the reason Marconi invented radio and God gave you ears.
And he scored, it's a brilliant goal!
The Champions League live on Talksport 2.
Hamilton for Manchester City in the area, right-hand side, gets a shot away and scores on his debut for Manchester City. What a moment for Micah Hamilton. Brilliant stuff from the youngster on his debut. Micah Hamilton has a moment to remember. A Champions League goal to put the citizens ahead. It's worked out to Grealish on the left-hand side. Looks early for Kovacic, who's bursting down the left-hand side of the box. Great ball across, and somehow Matheus Nunes contrives to steer the ball wide of the target, but it looked for all the world that he made it 2-0.
Nunes really should have finished a lot better than he actually did.
Back to goal, into the area, Nedeljkovic checks back onto his left, curls it just over the bar. What a chance for Red Star and for Costa Nedeljkovic. The referee says that's enough, and Manchester City lead by a 1-0 in Belgrade at half-time. Yes, Red Star 0, Manchester City 1, live on Talksport 2. Myself, Ian Danter, and Stuart Pearce will bring you the second half in a little while, and then we'll be off to the King Power Stadium because our second live commentary of the night on Talksport 2 is from the Championship. Lots of games in England's second tier tonight. Cardiff against Birmingham, Coventry Southampton, Norwich Sheffield Wednesday, QPR Plymouth and Middlesbrough Hull. All those games barring Middlesbrough kicking off at 7:45. The Borough game kicks off at 8. But our live game is from the King Power, where Leicester City have the chance to go back to the top of the pile as they take on Millwall. And we should say a very good evening to our commentary team in the East Midlands, former Norwich striker Dean Ashton and your match commentator Jim Proudfoot. How are you, boys?
Yeah, very good, Dan. Thank you. Nice to speak to you and Stu. Yeah, great stuff, Dan.
Yeah, well, Leicester, I'm sure Enzo Maresca can't have had a better team talk to provide to his players than, right, Ipswich went top last night. You go and sort it out and get back to the top yourselves. That's team talk done, isn't it?
Yeah, essentially, that will be it. And if they are to be successful tonight, Leicester, they know that they will have more points after 21 games of a championship season than any other team in history, which is, some accolade to have. Nobody has ever got to 52 points from 21 before. Ipswich currently on 51. That is the best that there has ever been so far, but Leicester can usurp that. And they're taking on a Millwall side who had a good start under Joe Edwards, having made the change with Gary Rowett leaving. Joe coming in, they won the first game 4-0 away at Sheffield Wednesday, but they haven't won since. So the bottom three have been getting that little bit closer. They've begun to pick up a bit of form, so it matters at both ends of the table tonight.
I think also you can look at it many different ways. I think from a Leicester point of view, you can think actually maybe it's a good thing that Ipswich are right there. That'll then push us on. It'll keep the focus. I think if you're Leeds, Southampton, any of the teams that are chasing, you're probably thinking it's a good thing because maybe them two might kind of fight it out and put each other off, and it helps us try and chase them. But they're two top sides, Leicester and Ipswich, and if teams let them get away, I don't think they'll catch them.
Well, Leeds kind of let them get away by losing at Sunderland last night, so there is that perceptible gap now between the top two and those in the playoffs. I've been sat where you guys are sat at the King Power already this season when Preston came to Leicester and did the whole low block thing, for want of a better expression. I wonder what Millwall's approach will be tonight, Jim. Is there a discernible style that Joe Edwards has already brought to the Lions since coming in?
I think that essentially, yes, it is going to be along those lines. I think that Millwall will do everything they can. They have changed the formation a couple of times since Joe's come. They played a 3 in one of the games. They have ordinarily played a 4. I think it'd be interesting to see how Leicester approach it in terms of the personnel. We're waiting for the teams which should be out in a couple of minutes, but there's a speculation of a couple of potentially interesting inclusions in the Leicester side tonight. So I think it will be very interesting to see exactly how Millwall do approach it. But I think that essentially they are going to try and soak it up. I don't think you can take Leicester on at their own game. This is going to be a game where they don't get an awful lot of possession. Millwall's away record actually is very good. It's their home form that's been letting them down this season. Away from home, they're pretty tidy, and they're pretty tidy because they have that ability to be able to soak things up and hit sides on the counter-attack. And that will be what they're trying to play for tonight.
Dean, I know we've got to smuggle you into Portman Road somehow on Saturday lunchtime for the Old Farm Derby. I don't know quite how we're going to do that, the height you are. We're going to have to find the biggest carrier bag in the world to get you inside without any trouble. But in terms of the Championship and the way that teams are going about their business, there's a lot more attacking football from a lot of teams further down the league than you would normally expect. There's not that much fear football in the Championship, aside from those teams that are really struggling at the foot of it.
Yeah, I think you make a good point, and I think that is mainly probably owner and fan led, in terms of, I think fans don't just want to turn up and see a team sit there for 90 minutes and counter-attack and try and win the game, in which they probably aren't going to end up doing anyway. They want to see some good football. They want to see their team try and give it a real go against the opposition. Just came across a stat today. Only twice after 20 matches since 1992 have the team in 21st won more points, which I think shows, even from the bottom, you cannot be ruled out for playoffs. And we've seen it year after year, and this year probably even more than many, as I mentioned, since 1992. Teams who might seem as if they're having a shocking season, and I think probably Joe Edwards will be in that category, having only just taken over. But it doesn't take that much, because of the division, to suddenly jump up, put some results together. The whole season can look very, very different, and that's what is great about this league.
That stat did the business for Stuart Pearce. He sat alongside me here, Dean, and we both raised our eyebrows at that. That's why we pay you the big bucks. Stats like that.
I must say, I do love a stat that raises my eyebrow. I played in a team, Dean, I must say, 1993, the Forest team that people looked at and thought they were bloody useless. You know what? We got relegated, and we actually were.
See, lies, damn lies, and statistics, right? One player to quickly look at tonight before the players come back out here in Belgrade. Steffi Mavididi, Dean Ashton, is a player that's really grown in stature at Leicester City. Scored again at the weekend in the thumping of Plymouth Argyle. He's not a player that was on everybody's lips at the start of the season. Most people were talking about Harry Winks and Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, but he's a box of tricks, isn't he?
Yeah, you have to say, brilliant recruitment from Leicester's staff, because he's been brilliant right from the get-go. It's not like it's taken him a couple of months to settle in. I watched him early on against Coventry here at the King Power, and I thought, what a player already. And I watch wingers sometimes now, and they'll get the ball. It might just be a couple of fancy, step overs, and then just play it back. He's genuinely one of those wingers that when he's properly on his game, which he has been most of the season, you would not want to be a full back up against him. He just keeps going and going at you and going at you, and that's what I love about him. And actually, the end product's starting to improve as well.
Yes,
the decision making starting to improve, because it has to, because teams are going to sit in this low block and make it difficult, and it's going to be up to the likes of himself, those wingers, to create when they can get those 1v1 situations.
Just before I leave you guys, Jim, has any team news dropped in the last couple of minutes?
Yes, so as far as Leicester are concerned, no Chowdhury or Justin. Connor Cody comes back in. It will be Patson Daka that is leading the line again. Millwall making a stack of changes, Dance, 5 in all, with Hutchinson, Mitchell, Nisbet, Fleming and Longman the players that miss out. Recalls for Bradshaw, Watmore, Honeyman, Cooper and Saville, who are both back from suspension.
Gentlemen, thanks very much. Go and have a warm, and we'll hear from you later.
Thanks, Dance. Cheers.
Jim Proudfoot and Dean Ashton, your commentary team at the King Power Stadium. So as soon as myself and Stuart are done with this commentary on Talksport 2, we'll be straight off to the East Midlands, Leicester City against Millwall, and Jim will keep you updated with goals as they go in elsewhere for both the Championship and the Champions League. But if you want a round the ground service, then that will be on Talksport from 7, where Adrian Durham will be based at St James Park, Newcastle. Now, the eagle-eyed Stuart Pearce has already spotted that there's going to be a change for Manchester City at the start of the second half, because Phil Foden's out there.
Yeah, and I would fully expect it be for Grealish. He took a hell of a challenge to go with the one that he took out earlier on his ribs, and I would fully expect him to be the one. We're just waiting for confirmation on that.
just scanning around, but Foden is now waiting with the official on this near touchline, wearing the 47 on his back. Of course, he's got 47 tattooed just behind his right ear. That's got to hurt. Anyway, he is on for Grealish. That is confirmed. That is the one change that Manchester City have made at the break. What that might mean, we'll find out, because Micah Hamilton's more of a left-sided midfielder. That might mean that Foden plays right of the three up front and Hamilton switches to the left. We'll see about that, Stuart, once we're back underway. So 1-0 to Manchester City, 45 minutes away from securing maximum points, and will be only the second English team to achieve that in 6 group stage games since the Champions League was brought into play. Of course, the whole format changes completely next year in the Champions League, doesn't it? Everything, all the stats that we've got used to will soon be pretty much null and void. So City back underway with Ortega in goal, Lewis, Stones, Akanji, Gomez across the back, Phillips, Kovacic, Nunez in midfield. It's now Foden, Bob and Hamilton up front, and Hamilton is out on the left-hand side and he's received it early on up against Giga. Down the left-hand side, gets to the left-hand corner of the box, plays it into Foden, who just couldn't take the ball with him with his first touch, and allows Red Star to bring it clear. Red Star just quickly there, line up Glazer in goal, Nedeljkovic, Giga, Spajic and Dragovic at the back, Kanga, Mijatovic and Hwang in midfield, Bukhari and Jai and Olayinka in attack. Ball's back with John Stones. I remember sitting with Jim Proudfoot, who we were just chatting to there at Leicester. We were in the Sun Life Stadium in Miami before England played a pre-World Cup game in 2014 before they travelled to Brazil. Stones was just starting to make himself known as an England international. I remember Jim saying it will be criminal if he doesn't win 50 plus caps, and he's long since done that for his country, John Stones. It's given to Oscar Bob down the right-hand side of the area. Nunez drives for the byline, rolls the ball back to Oscar Bob at the right-hand corner of the area. Lewis also in support. Nunez wants it back further out towards the near touchline. Content to play the ball around City in their dark blue chain strip with the pink numbers on the backs of their shirts. Here is Calvin Phillips looking to impress on a rare start for Manchester City. Foden. He finds Sergio Gomez, who's clipped it out to Hamilton on the left-hand side. Corner of the area. Allowed to come in field. He's dropped his shoulder. Goes for goal and almost had a second. Well, suddenly it opened up for Micah Hamilton as 2 Red Star players were completely bamboozled and stood the wrong way. Hamilton moved inside, tried to curl it into the bottom corner, and not that far away from 2-0.
Well done once again, Hamilton. As I say, good movement outside him that attracted 2 defenders. He dropped a shoulder, come inside, this time from the left-hand side, opened the goal up and just didn't put enough curl on it. It bounced agonisingly just past the post. And City now look as though they're basically playing 2 wide players in Hamilton one side, Bob on the right-hand side, and 2 sort of deep line centre forwards in Nunez and Foden.
And here is Oscar Bob down the right-hand side of the area, fed by Lewis. Oh, lovely drop of the shoulder from Oscar Bob. Lofted it up to the penalty spot. Nunez tries an overhead kick. Can't connect with it correctly, and it will just dribble out of play for a goal kick. And Nunez has actually hurt himself in the act of trying to execute that overhead kick. He's hurt his right shoulder when he landed, and he's going to need some treatment. Red Star 0, Manchester City 1. Micah Hamilton, incidentally, is the 3rd Manchester City player to score on his Champions League debut. Gabriel Jesus did it on his debut in September 2017 against Feyenoord. And Jack Grealish, who's just gone off as a half-time change, he scored against Leipzig in September 2021. Nunez has gone down holding his shoulder. A bit of a concerned look on Pep Guardiola's face as to the condition of his attacking midfielder. 48 minutes gone. Stuart Pearce alongside me tonight.
I think the last thing they'll want from this game, yes, they'll want to win it, but the one thing they don't want is any injuries to come out of the game. I think they've picked up 1 or 2 already. Obviously, Grealish being substituted is as much of an injury potentially, and is a form situation, I'm sure.
Also looking at the the record books for Micah Hamilton. He's become the 5th youngest English player to score on his Champions League debut, the youngest to do so since Marcus Rashford did it for Manchester United 6 years ago. So a real terrific night for Micah Hamilton, whatever happens. Will it be a brilliant night for Newcastle United? They're playing AC Milan at St James's tonight. That's where Adrian Durham will be based for Talksport from 7 o'clock this evening, taking you around the grounds in the Champions League and the Championship. And Newcastle against AC Milan will be a central part of our coverage tonight on Talksport, with Leicester City against Millwall in the Championship, live here on your home of the EFL, Talksport 2. Back underway. Mijatovic works it into midfield. It's given back to Giga, the centre half, on the right-hand side of the penalty area. Back for his keeper. And the long ball downfield from Glazer. Might drop here for Bukhari. Shows a good turn of pace to drift out to the right-hand side, trying to get past John Stones. Holds it inside the area, right-hand side. Good cross to the far post. Volleyed goalwards by Njai. Great save by Ortega. Just stuck out a left claw and got something on it as it was hit at him at sudden pace. And City survived, but they've won it back. Kanga's going to have a go for goal, and Ortega has to tip it over the bar for a Red Star corner as the Belgrade side suddenly come forward with menace.
Well, by far the best attacking options there we've seen from Belgrade. Roared forward and a great save. It literally was a hitch kick, ball into the far post first off, which Ortega's just put his left arm out, stood his ground and bumped his left arm to clear that one.
Corner kick comes in over the head of Spajic, comes out to Mijatovic at the edge of the area. Decent strike, but again it was straight down the throat of Ortega, who could take the ball on the second bounce. But this is a decent period for Red Star as they try and get themselves level. And it was just an instinctive throw out of the left arm, and it kind of hit him on the bicep, Stefan Ortega, from Njai's hitch kick.
It did, and probably more so the secondary save was outstanding, diving away to his left.
Oscar Bob finds Calvin Phillips at the edge of the area. Looked like he fouled his man, actually, Calvin Phillips, and he's been booked for that challenge by the Azerbaijani referee. It's not what Calvin Phillips would have wanted on a rare start for Manchester City. So much talk about where might be best for Calvin Phillips to play his football for the rest of the season. As Stuart Pearce was saying, with Euro 2024 just around the corner, the one thing Calvin Phillips needs in the early part of next year is regular, competitive, top-class football to keep himself in his national manager's thoughts. And that assumedly would not happen were he to stay at the Etihad.
Well, it's certainly historically over the last year and a half that has been the case.
Red Star trying to get him behind on the right hand side, but again Stefan Ortega, who's got a very good starting position for long balls over the top, is quickly out to the left hand corner of his area to collect. 52 minutes gone on Talksport 2. Red Star 0, Manchester City 1, but there's been a few questions asked of Manchester City in these opening minutes of the restart. And Ortega with an instinctive save from Njai, keeping it level. It was a lovely hit from Njai, swiveled on his right leg and got a terrific shot away. And Kanga's effort from distance wasn't half bad either.
Yeah, we've just looked at the replay of that one, and the ball was just fading away from him into the left top right hand corner as Kanga looks at the goal, and a wonderful save.
Kovacic lays it off to Akanji, who, faced up by Kanga, will very calmly roll it back to Ortega. Akanji's all-purpose for Pep Guardiola. He can play in a number of positions across the back, playing at centre-half tonight, but he's just as adept as a right full-back. I do like watching Akanji play. Makes the game look nice and simple.
Yeah, I agree with you, and the fact is he's only a very young man as well. So we sort of lose track of the age of some of these players because they play more regularly than others.
And of course he was an international very early on for Switzerland, so it does seem to have been on the scene for an awful lot longer than you would normally think for a player of his age. It's 2-1 to Leipzig. 3 goals have come from nowhere in that game in Germany. Leipzig 2, Young Boys 1. That's the other game in this group as this group comes to a conclusion tonight. It's Leipzig and Manchester City that are going through, but Manchester City are long since confirmed as group winners. And presumably nobody who finishes second in their group is going to want to face Pep Guardiola's men in the round of 16. That draw's made later this week. Now here is Akanji striding purposefully up to the halfway line, hugging the left-hand touchline. Finds Hamilton, who tried very quickly to release Nunez down the left-hand side, but Giga, the centre-half, got in the way and blocked it out for a throw. Only 10 minutes gone in the second half. Manchester City leading by a goal to nil. As Sergio Gomez almost lost out there to Kanga, but it is a throw in the end to Manchester City. And there were thoughts that Manchester City would just go through the gears and smash 4 or 5 or maybe even 6 past Red Star, but that's definitely not been the case. Red Star have put up a really good performance here against a much changed Manchester City side. They've been in the Europa League the past 3 years of Red Star after failing in the Champions League qualifiers in August, but they are regular title winners in this country. They did the League and Cup double again last season. It was their deadly rivals just down the road, FK Partizan Belgrade. There's a tank outside the stadium whose turret and gun are pointing in the vague direction of the Partizan Stadium. I mean, that's symbolism for you.
Make of that what you want.
Exactly. There's a free kick to Manchester City, and Red Star are complaining that Calvin Phillips was not fouled and it was a legitimately won ball by Olayinka at the edge of the D. What do you make of that, Stuart?
Well, I'll tell you what, we spoke about it earlier, that straight ball to a player with his back to play. It was Phillips on that occasion, just outside his own box. And I've got to say, I think he's gone to ground very cheaply to get himself out of a tight situation. I don't think that's a foul. And the Red Star players are not particularly impressed by it.
Well, Alexander Katai has come on for Kanga. Vladimir Lucic on for Olayinka. And there's a third change as well for Red Star. We'll confirm that in just a moment. It's Mijatovic, Jovan Mijatovic, a youngster who's come on for Njai. So that's Jovan Mijatovic. So there's 2 Mijatovics out there, Stuart. Just what we wanted, eh? Commentators curse and all that. Here's Calvin Phillips for Manchester City. Feeds the ball out to Michael Hamilton, left-hand corner of the box. He's got Giga backpedaling for a moment. Has to just check back for a moment and find Kovacic. But Manchester City keep possession and work it back to the halfway line. Here is Kovacic, back out to Hamilton. Kovacic again, 30 yards out. Almost crowded out by 2 Red Star players, but it's worked back calmly to Akanji. Kovacic again getting involved. Slides the ball out to Micah Hamilton. Now the ball's worked back again to Akanji. You can hear the atmosphere building up around the stadium. Red Star fans believing there's something in this for their team as Lewis slips and allows Lukic to win it back. Guided back for the goalkeeper Glazer. His first time ball up to halfway, can't find the intended target. Lovely turn by Bukhari, who's running down the inside left channel, then forgets to take the ball with him, and Rico Lewis takes it away and into the Red Star half. Foden gets his head up, spots Micah Hamilton striding down the left hand side. Again, he's taken Giga, the centre half, out with him to engage. Rolls it back to Sergio Gomez. Now Kovacic takes over. Back to Michael Hamilton. A lot of City's play is down their left-hand side at the moment. And Kovacic is there once again, midway point of the half. Rolls it back to Sergio Gomez. And there's a lot of patience about Manchester City's passing and build-up play at the moment, Stuart Pearce.
Yeah, there is. And part of that is to take the sting out of Red Star. They probably had their best period since half-time, Red Star. And the more City dominate the ball, the more it diminishes the spark.
Stones on halfway finds Matheus Nunez, who tries to turn him field away from Lukic, who pulled him back by the shoulder. Free kick to Manchester City on halfway. 1-0 as we approach the hour mark on Talksport 2. Leicester City against Millwall coming up straight after this game as we bring you yet another live commentary from the EFL. We are your home of the EFL, and in terms of championship games, none much bigger in this season's championship than Ipswich against Norwich, and we'll bring you the East Anglian derby on Talksport Saturday lunchtime from midday. Adrian Durham will be your host as game day. He'll be based at the Vitality Stadium, Bournemouth. Here come Manchester City with Kovacic in the centre of the Red Star half. He's got options left and right. Actually elects to go for goal himself as he got to the edge of the D, but it was blocked at source by Spajic, and it will just ricochet out of play for a Man City throw.
Should have done much better there. He's had Bob out one side, Hamilton out the other. There's your options of passes. Decided by the time he'd ummed and ahed, the shooting lines were blocked, but he carried on with a shot.
Not known for his goal scoring, Patio Kovacic, in fairness to him, but he saw glory for a moment. Nunez, Lewis, infield to Calvin Phillips, back midway point of the Red Star half, just to the right of centre, but they go back to Kovacic inside the centre circle. Whistles go up around the stadium as Red Star can't win the ball back. Lovely exchange of passing between Foden and Sergio Gomez. Gomez tried to feed the ball back infield to Foden when Hamilton looks an option down the left-hand side of the area. It has gone out for a City throw, but they're just not finding that final ball at the moment.
No, it's that, as Pep mentioned a week or so ago, that creativity potentially, to cut teams open. And when you see the likes of Bernardo Silva and De Bruyne in operation, they are world class at it.
Bernardo Silva does wait as one of the substitutes that Pep Guardiola can use this evening. He's brought the big guns out here to Belgrade. Haaland stayed at home. He should be back in training tomorrow after the foot injury that saw him ruled out for a couple. Oh, lovely run into the area from Oscar Bob! It's 2-0. What a lovely, lovely goal. Oscar Bob now nets a Champions League goal after Michael Hamilton scored in the first half. The youngsters are running riot in Belgrade, and Manchester City are surely going to be winning 6 out of 6 in the group stage, and it's all down to the kids tonight. Hamilton in the first half, Bob in the second. A brilliant night for both. It's Red Star 0, Manchester City 2.
Great play there, really was. As I say, Bob's picked the ball up from about 35 yards out, and he's had nothing else on his mind than getting to the box, dropping the shoulder, and when he got in the box, just opened up the left side of his body and just faded one into the far corner from about 12 metres. Wonderful finish. But what you've got to do, you've got to have a positive mindset to go and take people on. Too often I see people check out, go back, play safe. Fantastic play.
His first Manchester City goal in the senior side. He scored plenty in the youth ranks as Oscar Bob, but the young Norwegian finds the target with a low left-footed effort, just trickling in off the inside of the post. Super finish, and that should be that. Done and dusted. With 62 minutes gone, it's Red Star 0, Manchester City 2, and Pep Guardiola can probably, if he wasn't already, just feel a little more content on that Manchester City bench now.
Yeah, I think that should see the game done and dusted. But listen, he's a born winner, Pep. He'll want to come here, he'll want to win this game. He won't just fulfil a fixture as such, but the good part of it, he's got some real pluses with these two youngsters playing well in the game. Not only that, both getting on the score sheet.
Well, I saw Oscar Bob come on in that 6-1 win against Bournemouth for Talksport 2 a couple of weeks ago, and I was highly impressed with his selflessness as much as anything else. But you have to be selfless in a Pep Guardiola side, don't you? You can't just try and grab all the headlines for yourself. They've been dispossessed here, Man City. And then Bakari trips over himself. Lukic takes over. Left-hand side of the box, tries to square it across the face of goal. Awkward clearance by Akanji, but he's helped out by Bob. And then Lewis will give it back to his captain Stones, who puts his foot through a clearance and gets it up to halfway. But yeah, he struck me, Oscar Bob, as an old head on young shoulders.
Yeah, I would fully expect them to be coached in a way that, the team is far important than you as an individual, and you can see that. with the way City play and how they enjoy helping each other and supplying each other with a pass.
It's been quite a 2023 for Oscar Bob. He's won his first senior caps for Norway and scored for his country, and now he scored his first Manchester City goal. Fantastic. And Rodric is coming on for Spajic for a change at the back for Red Star, who know that there's no European football for them going into 2024. They finish in 4th place in this group, but they've acquitted themselves well at times tonight. But the gap between some European leagues and others can sometimes be shown very starkly, that Manchester City's much changed side still have too much for effectively a first choice Red Star team here, Stuart.
Yeah, exactly that, Dan. So, you know, they've made changes here. The mentality might be slightly down as well, and they've still had far too much for the Red Star team, as I say. And you've got to, that's why not many teams end up winning 6 out of 6 games in this, because if your last game's the away game, normally that dictates that you probably won't win that because of your mentality, and you can't be bothered to actually win it. But on this occasion, City were far too good for this group.
Tomorrow night, the top 2 in their Europa League group meet. Real Betis against Rangers in the Europa League. That's live on Talksport at 8 o'clock. Hugh Wozencroft will be your presenter. Alex Crook and Dean Ashton will be your commentary team. Real Betis against Rangers. And there is another team involved in that group who might get involved in all of that. That is Sparta Prague. Aris Limassol are effectively out of it, so Sparta Prague could still cause a problem. And they play 8 o'clock as well tomorrow. And then Friday night, Stuart will be at the City Ground along with Adam Bridge for commentary on the Premier League, an exclusive commentary, Nottingham Forest against Tottenham Hotspur. That again kicks off 8 o'clock on TalkSport on Friday night. Meanwhile, I'll be at the darts because the PDC World Championship starts at the same time on Friday night. We'll be on the air from Alexandra Palace at 7 p.m. And there is the TalkSport World Darts Championship on Friday afternoon as well, that Stuart Pearce was not asked to participate in. I think you were probably happy that you were heading up the M1 to the City Ground,
well,
right?
I enjoy my darts, actually. When I used to work for the council, I become quite adept at darts, actually, because lunchtimes used to be on the Kilburn estate in the pub, you know, in a game of darts.
A bit of a potential darts bandit. Well, I believe Mr. Alistair Modo McCoist has been added to the roster of players for Friday afternoon as we find out who the TalkSport Darts World Champion is.
He is the Bobby George of TalkSport, isn't he?
He'll have the bling, no doubt. That's with Hawksby and Jacobs from 1 o'clock. I'll be part of the team bringing you that championship, and then I'll hot-foot it to Ali Pali for the start of the real deal. Can Michael Smith retain his title? It's a very, very competitive field for the World Darts Championship this year, and there's some very talented young darts players who you may well be hearing a lot of on the radio over the course of the next couple of weeks. Kian van Veen of the Netherlands, Luke Littler from these shores, Josh Rock of Northern Ireland. Some very talented young darts players trying to mix it with the established names like Peter Wright, Michael van Gerwen, Michael Smith and the rest. 2-0 to Manchester City midway through the second half as the ball is picked up by Mijatovic, goes for goal, and it's only a yard or two wide as he struck it with his left foot a good 25 yards out, and it drifts wide for a Manchester City goal kick from Jovan Mijatovic. Just chanced his arm but snatched at the shot awfully. Goal kick, 2-0 Man City.
I must say that's a really poor effort from there. He's got a player in his line of where he should be shooting. He's got to move it off that line. He's ended up pulling it so far wide, it's incredible. Bakali as well, he's a near miss for a very average player, isn't he? You know, he keeps tripping over the ball every time they get good opportunities to hurt City.
Or a particularly tall blade of grass. We've all been there. Or at least we all claim we've been there. Oh, present company accepted. Looking to my right. Ball's back with him.
I've tripped over even bigger blades of grass from the penalty spot, I can assure you.
Let's say no more about that, shall we? Ball's out of play for a Red Star throw. We're midway through the second half. There's plenty of championship action tonight. It's not just our commentary game between Leicester City and Millwall. Jim Proudfoot and Dean Ashton are there for us at the King Power straight after this game. But there's other big games tonight in the Championship. Cardiff City against Birmingham, Coventry against Southampton. Coventry in decent form of late after a bit of a blip under Mark Robbins, but Southampton trying to keep pace with the top two. We mentioned Leicester Millwall. Norwich against Sheffield Wednesday, QPR against Plymouth, and Middlesbrough against Hull. Two teams trying to bounce back from recent defeats. Here comes Osman Bakari for Red Star into the area. Mijatovic hits the post, took it on his right foot, instantly struck it with his left along the deck. It hit the foot of the post and went wide, close to Red Star, reducing the arrears, but it's still 2-0 to City.
Well, if there's one thing that inspires a player is me criticising them, and Bakari there managed to find a great pass, a sensible pass, and once he set that pass away, great opportunity there, and the foot of the post was hit.
Ended up just being a goal kick to Manchester City with 20 minutes to go. But we've all put our foot in it in the commentary box. Do you remember sitting with me in a penalty shootout between Germany and Italy when the first two penalties were brilliantly struck, and you said, I think we're in for some good penalties, and that cued then Simone Zaza and Schweinsteiger and Ozil and some of those dreadful penalties you and I have ever witnessed.
It was the worst penalty shootout there's ever been.
Yes, no question. Manchester City 2-0 up and cruising here in Belgrade. Akanji in possession just shy of the centre circle, gives the ball to Kovacic. Pep Guardiola not ringing the changes at this point. Certainly Red Star way ahead of him in terms of having made substitutions. He's brought on Phil Foden at the start of this second half. I wonder whether any of the other youngsters might get an opportunity before the end of the night. There are two academy graduates. Max Alain is one of those. He might be called upon. And Mamadou Sissoko, the Spaniard, who's just 18 years of age, he may get a chance as well before too long. But that's potentially for the future. For now, Manchester City have Crystal Palace in their sights on Saturday afternoon. Presumably, Erling Haaland will be available for selection for that game to try and add to Crystal Palace's recent misery.
Well, I think if they can get Haaland back and De Bruyne anywhere near the team sheet, they'll be absolutely delighted.
Phillips for Manchester City. Out to Micah Hamilton. Out to the left-hand side. Works it back to Sergio Gomez, who's looked neat and tidy at left-back tonight. Doesn't often get an opportunity himself. Hamilton again. How much genuine food for thought are Micah Hamilton and Oscar Bob giving Pep Guardiola with regard to the second half of the season, do you think, Stuart? I mean, it's great to see what they've done tonight,
yeah.
But what sort of a headache, for want of a better word, are they giving him?
I think they, the pair of them have done pretty well in this game, and certainly when I've seen Bob coming onto the pitch in previous games as well, I think they've done more than enough. And you need a big squad, and when you think you don't need a big squad, all of a sudden you suffer a few injuries, and these youngsters just to have, I mean, neither of them are looked out of place. One of them's making his debut in the Champions League.
Yeah.
It's fantastic how well he's done, how confident he is on the ball.
Stuart Pearce is absolutely right. You wouldn't know that Oscar Bob and Micah Hamilton had just scored their first goals for their team. The way that they took both of their efforts, very cool, calm and collected in both instances. Kovacic in possession, runs into Bakari, who can bring the ball away down the inside left channel. Got Stones back pedalling, cuts the ball inside, then chips it into the area way beyond Jovan Mijatovic, and just bounces through, and Bakari puts his hands on his hips to say, what run was that?
I honestly would like to get inside Bakari's head and find out what picture you're actually seeing when he's got the ball at his feet. Great opportunity once again to feed a teammate in or take someone on, and just chose neither.
So it's a Manchester City in possession once again in the centre of their own half. John Stones plays the ball back to Skreta Kovacic. Hwang closing down the space, so it's back with Ortega. Still Leipzig 2, Young Boys 1 in this group's other match. Doesn't really have a bearing on very much Leipzig going through with Manchester City. Leipzig in second place. Manchester City group winners. Oh, a little Cruyff turn from Stefan Ortega to keep the ball away from young Mijatovic inside the area. Ball played up to Phil Foden. And then Calvin Phillips looks for Matheus Nunes. Ball's out of play for a throw. There was a defender, Chris White, who played for Leeds for many years, came to Birmingham late on his career. He liked to do one Cruyff turn every game, and the fans could see it coming a mile off, but for some reason the opposition players couldn't. And there is going to be a change here, and that Spanish youngster Mamadou Sissoko is going to get his opportunity for a Manchester City debut. Mateo Kovacic is the man that's coming off, so a lovely moment for Mamadou Sissoko, 18, Spaniard, midfielder, part of the City Academy, given his opportunity by Pep Guardiola with 15 minutes to play, 2-0 up.
Yeah, what people don't tend to realise, and I saw it at all the clubs that I've been at and, you know, walked the corridors.
It was Bakary, setting Hwang away, Hwang scored! They've got a goal back, Red Star, they've had their moment in front of their home fans, and suddenly they've won the ball back, midway point of the City half. City can't keep a clean sheet these days, and they conceded again, and Hwang in beyond, the South Korean, drilled it home low past Ortega. Was Phillips the guilty man giving up possession? It's Red Star 1, City 2.
Well, it was those straight balls on that occasion just cut out to Nunes, and I've got to say, showed a real clinical nature there of finishing off. Hwang got it inside the box on his left foot, drilled it hard and low. Ortega could do absolutely nothing about it.
You're right, it was Nunes who tried to collect a straight pass from Ortega near the centre circle. It kind of bounced off him. Red Star was straight onto it, and Bakary on this occasion had his head up and had the right decision in mind, Stuart.
I always knew he'd come good. I really did.
So it's not all done and dusted quite in Belgrade. Red Star 1, Manchester City 2. And you can hear the atmosphere has gone up a notch or two inside the stadium. Manchester City look to be cruising toward group stage perfection. But the champions of the Serbian League have other ideas, and they're about to make another change as well to bring on Kabic, our Red Star. But they'll have to wait till the ball next goes out of play. It's a super finish from Hwang, who's trying to win the ball in the centre circle, but it drifts away from him. And Nunes finds Bob on the inside right channel. There's a Red Star player gone down thumping the turf in frustration, having been caught in a challenge. Is it Nedeljkovic? Just trying to see who it is on that far side. It is indeed Nedeljkovic, who just went for an aerial challenge with Sergio Gomez and kind of landed awkwardly and hurt his lower back, I think, Stuart Pearce.
Yeah, maybe a potential knee in the back there. Certainly.
Well, Nedeljkovic is coming off anyway for the aforementioned Kabic to come on and replace him. So Uroš Kabic will spend the last 13 minutes to try and change things if he can for Red Star. But they're giving the ball away. Foden at the edge of the area drives it over the bar. Suddenly Red Star gave the ball up 20 yards from their own goal. Foden, though, lifted his left-footed shot from the edge of the box, wide of the angle of post and bar. A let-off for Red Star, 2-1 City.
Yeah, it really was a poor giveaway, and Foden's picked the ball up, and instead of going for a curly bit of culture, he's decided to put his laces through it and lost any control of the ball.
Here come Red Star again down the left-hand side with Lukic. He's got Rico Lewis backpedaling. He's into the area. Checks onto his right foot, still got it Lukic, then back onto his left, and then trips over his own feet. The ball goes over the dead ball line, and Lukic thumps the turf 4 times in frustration at letting the ball get away from him. Still 2-1 to Manchester City.
Yeah, just making the point about these academy players getting into the first team. In all the training grounds you go to with the academies, there's the pride that all these clubs have, especially at academy level, of bringing these players through to get in the first team, selling the dream for the next generation of players especially.
And you want that percentage, if you're a fan of the club, to be high, and you want the quality of that percentage to be really good as well. And we've mentioned earlier about teams like Newcastle, who have a lot of, Geordies in their squad who've come through. You think of Longstaff, you think of Dan Burn, who's coming, of course. And with a team like Manchester City, they should be able to get the very, very best into their academies. One of them coming forward now, the Norwegian Oscar Bob, who scored his first City goal tonight. Sissoko just dwelt on the ball a little bit, had the ball taken off his toe, but they've won it back, City. Hamilton gives it back for Sergio Gomez. 10 minutes to go on Talksport 2. We'll be off to the King Power straight after this game. We will bring you full commentary on Leicester City against Millwall with Jim Proudfoot and Dean Ashton at the King Power Stadium, and Jim will keep you updated with scores from elsewhere in the Championship and the Champions League. There's a few either-ors to be decided in the Champions League tonight, and Jim will keep you right up to speed with those as well. The only either-or here at this point is whether Red Star can actually get themselves level here and force the issue still further against Manchester City. It's 2-1 to City. They've got a free kick. Hwang is in a bit of hot water with the referee, having shoved Matheus Nunes to the ground.
I think whether Red Star can get back in this game is largely down to Manchester City, and if they give them chances in poor areas of the pitch.
You can hear the whistles around the stadium. The Red Star fans want that second win. They want that last extra push to give them a moment to savour. They've not had many to savour in this season's Champions League. Only 1 point to show for their travails so far. They've got a free kick to face in that Stones has about 10 yards inside Red Star territory. And he'll have it again. Stones plays into the feet of Lewis. Got to work it all the way back into his own half for Phillips. Phillips being closed down by Hwang, so he rolls it back to Ortega. Ortega takes a heavy first touch, and they almost won it back, Red Star. And now Sissoko brings it away for Manchester City. Good ball out to Nunes inside left channel. Hamilton just ahead of him, but there's enough red and white shirts back, and they've actually won a throw, Red Star, inside their own half. But there's only 8.5 minutes left now in the Stadion Rajko Mitic for Red Star to get level. And now Pep Guardiola has called for some of the heavy artillery from the bench. Matheus Nunes just had a bit of cramp earlier. He's limping off on the far side of the pitch to be replaced by one Bernardo Silva.
Well, I've got to say, Bernardo Silva, my current favourite player in the Premier League, and this is a gentleman that knows the game so well inside out that he'll be making all the right decisions on what's needed at the right moment in this game, I'm sure, to see the game out.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? When they sold David Silva at the end of his contract, you thought that was it for somebody being brilliant with the name Silva. We knew that Bernardo Silva was good, but it seems like he's just picked up the Silva mantle.
Well,
just run with it. He's been incredible.
I think they just cloned him like Dolly the sheep, if I'm being honest with you, Dance.
There's one for the teenagers. Ball's back with John Stones inside his own half. City 2-1 up with 82 minutes gone on Talksport 2. Sissoko on his debut works the ball out to Bernardo Silva, hugging that right flank, that inside right position, as he so often does for City. Might get it back again from Sissoko. He does indeed. Midway point of the half. Clips it forward to Bob, who does well to stay on his feet despite the attentions behind him of the Red Star defence. Then Bernardo Silva sends it across to Micah Hamilton, left-hand corner of the penalty area. Tries to wriggle inside two players. Was he pulled back? He was. Penalty kick. Manchester City have a penalty as Giga pulled back Micah Hamilton inside the area. He wriggled in between two Red Star players, and one of those two had a pull on the shirt. Easy decision for the referee to award Manchester City a late penalty.
I've got to say, he sent Bernardo Silva on the football pitch, and he's had 3 or 4 interactions, kept the ball brilliantly well, fed Hamilton, and Hamilton once again takes people on and forced the penalty. And great play by Silva, an even better play by Hamilton. Well done to him, you know. A goal and an assist now, hopefully.
Calvin Phillips is spotting the ball down for Manchester City. How about that, Stuart?
Well, listen, they must know something. I'm sure he's just not plucked it out of the air and said, I'll take this.
Rarely gets an opportunity, Calvin Phillips. And he's never scored for Manchester City since arriving in July of last year. But now he has the responsibility from 12 yards to seal the victory for his side and notch his first ever City goal. Big moment for Calvin Phillips. Waits 4 steps back from the ball and becomes right-footed and scores. Sends the keeper the wrong way. A lovely moment for Calvin Phillips. 3 goals for Manchester City. All first goals for the players that have scored them, including Calvin Phillips, who makes it 3-1 from the penalty spot.
Yeah, that's put the game beyond Red Star now. They had a resurgence there. At one stage you thought they might have a halcyon moment these last 10 minutes, but Bernardo Silva coming on and Hamilton once again asking questions of the back line.
So, first Manchester City goals for Micah Hamilton on his debut. Oscar Bobb with his first Champions League goal and his first City goal. And now Calvin Phillips puts his thumb up to the travelling City fans in the corner of the stadium. A nice moment for him. Scored 14 goals when he was a Leeds player in over 200 appearances. Now he's finally notched for the club he joined 18 months ago. Nathan Ake's just come on for John Stones to see out these last few minutes. Sensible move from Pep Guardiola as John Stones keeps feeling his way back to full fitness. Now down the right hand side, Red Star coming forward, but that's good defending once again by Stefan Ortega. His starting position in goal for City has been brilliant tonight to repel some of those through balls.
Yeah, you make a really good point there. As you say, he's been off that line and out the box probably on 3 or 4 occasions, which has stopped very, very promising attacks. And couple that with the fact of a couple of good saves as well at critical times in the second half.
Yeah, the save from Njai and the follow-up shot from distance from Kanga tested Ortega to the full, but he was equal to all that. He did eventually concede from Hwang In-beom, but there was very little he could do about the South Korean strike. And there is a free kick for Red Star, almost at the midway point of the Manchester City half, out to the right-hand side. And there's 3 players around the ball. Hwang's going to take it into the area. Mijatovic is onside, and he's hit the post from a yard out. And Manchester City survive. Ball's hooked back across the face of goal. Poke clear, and the offside flag's gone up anyway. I'm not sure whether that would have counted, but Jovan Mijatovic was not to know that. He'd received the ball a yard out and still managed to smack the ball against the foot of the post. 3-1 City.
Well, quite amazing, really. The free kicks come in. Yeah, definitely offside, I think.
Certainly one of the players was offside. I think it was Katai who was offside. Whether Jovan Mijatovic was off from the initial delivery, but he took the ball round Ortega, who just couldn't get a hand on it. The angle was getting tighter, but somehow he hit the post rather than the back of the net.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how he done that.
There is a potential penalty check at the VAR hub in Nyon at the moment for what went on with that skirmish inside the Manchester City box. So our Azerbaijani referees just telling the players out there, wait for the whistle. And the monitors are being studied at the VAR hub, and they finally say check over, no penalty, play on. Much to the disappointment of those around the stadium. Heading towards full time. As soon as we're done here, we'll be straight off to the King Power Stadium for full commentary on Leicester City against Millwall in the Championship on Talksport 2. Jim Proudfoot and Dean Ashton are there for us tonight. See whether Leicester City can regain top spot in the Championship after Ipswich went to Watford and came from behind to snatch all 3 points yesterday. Ball's up on halfway. Red Star win it back. Lukic turns into trouble. In fact, carried the ball straight out of play under pressure from Bernardo Silva. and a throw to Manchester City. Remember, Adrian Durham's taking you around the grounds over on Talksport. He's on air right now. Games in the Championship and the Champions League under focus, including St James's Park. Newcastle against AC Milan is where Adrian is hosting from this evening. Big night for Newcastle, Stuart.
Oh, it's a massive night for the club, and I'll be absolutely delighted to see them progressing.
Even the Europa League would be something to celebrate, wouldn't it, if they finished third?
Yeah, it certainly would. I mean, when you look at the magnitude of the group that they were drawn in, you know, with their lack of well, put it this way, last time they were in the Champions League, I was playing for them. It was that long ago.
Dortmund, PSG, remember the other two teams in that group. Here comes Bukhari again for Red Star. Into the area, tries to drive, and it's blocked behind by Akanji for a corner kick. Just tried a little grub kick, really. Osman Bukhari. He's won a corner out of it, as we're about to find out how much extra time we have in Belgrade. The 90 minutes are up. 5 minutes of added time that we're into now. And Red Star have a corner, which Hwang In-beom is going to take from this near side. A right-footed in-swinger from the South Korean. Onto the 6-yard line and headed in for 3-2. I think that's Katai who got his head on it. Super header from Alexander Katai. Free header as well from 6 yards out. Good precise corner from Hwang In-beom, and Katai's firm header into the bottom corner. Nothing Ortega could do. It's Red Star 2, Manchester City 3.
Well, Katai rose brilliantly well there and left Gomez, it was, absolutely flat on his back. But great header. The poor goal to concede. I think he's trod on Gomez's foot, and Gomez has just hit the deck, trying to back off and head the ball.
So Alexander Katai, who joined from LA Galaxy a couple of years ago, played a lot of football over in MLS, began his career really in Greece with Olympiacos, back here though, and he's given Red Star again just an outside chance of snatching a point here. Sergio Gomez, who lost out to that free header for Katai, is just hobbling off the pitch behind the goal. So how much will Red Star take from that second goal? Will they push on and try and get a third? They surely will. Back underway on Talksport 2. We've played nearly 2 minutes of the minimum 5 that have been added on. Leicester Millwall upcoming next on your home of the EFL. Ball's headed up in the air by Giga, drops in the centre circle, and Lukic gets there ahead of his man. There's 3 forward for Red Star, but Ake tidies up, gives the ball back to Ortega. He takes a couple of touches, shifts it to his right, clips it up to halfway, but it's over the head of Oscar Bob. Don't want any nervousness from Man City at this point. The job was done. And there's Bernardo Silva keeping the ball in play beautifully on this near touchline, just slowing the game down, but his intended flick ball through for Oscar Bob doesn't find its target, but Red Star could only clear the ball out of play for a throw in.
Yeah, I mean, they should just see this out. They've probably made it a little bit more difficult for themselves than they actually should have done, and when you strip it down and have a look at it, they've conceded a couple of poor goals, City, I think, but flip side of that is they've scored 3 on the road.
But that does bring into focus once again the inability to keep clean sheets just now for Manchester City, regardless of the competition that they're in.
Indeed, and as I say, when you looked at them last year, it's certainly in that run-in to pick up the Champions League, they look very, very good defensively.
But if you're winning games 3-2, 5-4, 4-3, doesn't really matter if you're conceding in some respects. Giga slides in just to try and take the ball away from Hamilton, who was offside as the ball was played to him down the left-hand channel. 3 minutes of stoppage time have gone. Manchester City inching towards 6 wins out of 6 in the group stage. But Red Star not quite done yet. 3-2 the score to Manchester City. Ortega has the ball at his feet, lofts it up to halfway. It's a good ball actually to find Oscar Bob, but Bob has to wriggle away from a couple of challenges, plays a 1-2 with Bernardo Silva and then gives it back to the Portuguese. Bernardo Silva now running towards the Red Star penalty area, plays it left to Hamilton. Hamilton inside the box finds Foden, tries to wriggle clear of a challenge, goes down looking for a penalty. Referee right on the spot says no, and Hwang just hits a long hopeful ball downfield, and Mijatovic gives chase, but Ake is quicker than Mijatovic and tidies up for Manchester City.
Well, it's hard to explain. With less than a minute to go, our City become semi-undone there, if you like, with two players chasing Ake down, and Ake, it was fortunate that he dealt with it very, very well.
Lukic plays the ball in field for Katai, who scored Red Star second, drifting down the left-hand side, tries to get a cross in, deflected out of play by a tired-looking Rico Lewis. A throw-in to Red Star. They're going to throw everybody forward. They want the draw, they want a point, they want a little bit of glory, Red Star. Back it goes to Hwang, just ahead of the centre circle. Then it's sent in by Zerdan Mijatovic to the edge of the area. Manchester City head it clear. Hamilton works the ball back to Sergio Gomez. 5 minutes have been played. It's down to the Azerbaijani referee how much more we add on, with City 3-2 up. Back it goes to Ortega, first time clearance with his right boot up to halfway, but Hwang, who's the last man back for Red Star, gets it back to his keeper. And Glazer, the keeper, will fire it right-footed up to halfway. Kept in play by Mijatovic. Lukic tries to give it back to Mijatovic down the left-hand side, but it's out of play for a City throw, and that may well be that. The referee puts his whistle to his lips, and it is Champions League group stage perfection for Manchester City, who win 6 games as an English side in the Champions League group stage. They become only the second English side to do that. They were made to work for it by Red Star, but 3 goals scored by players, all scoring their first for their club. Micah Hamilton on debut on 19, Oscar Bob just after the hour, and Calvin Phillips scoring a penalty with 5 minutes to go. Hwang and Katai got goals back for Red Star, but Stuart Pearce, in the end, Manchester City's extra quality told.
Yeah, it certainly did. Obviously, the youngsters coming in and getting on the score sheet as well has been a massive plus for City, but you go on the road, you score 3 goals. Downside is conceded a couple of really average goals, I've got to say, but to win 6 out of 6 games, 18 points, Pep will be absolutely delighted.
Job done then for Manchester City. They win by 3 goals to 2, topping this group with 18 points from a possible 18. Thanks to Stuart Pearce for joining me for this Champions League commentary. Let's get straight off to the King Power. Players must be almost ready to come out the tunnel.